The gym always felt like a parallel universe to me, a place where sculpted bodies seemed to move with an effortless grace I believed was out of my reach. At 23, I, Monica, had grown tired of being the girl glued to the couch, buried in TV shows and books, avoiding mirrors because I thought I was thin and shapeless. One day, I decided it was time for a change. Walking into that expansive gym on my first day, my heart raced. The environment was overwhelming. Men and women resembled polished versions of themselves as they moved confidently past me, while I struggled to figure out where the stretching area was located. My cheeks burned with embarrassment when I attempted to adjust a machine and couldn't make it cooperate. Before I could even start, I had already considered throwing in the towel. Then I heard his voice for the very first time. "First time here?" asked a man with a light, easy tone that almost felt like he was reading my mind. Turning slowly, I found myself face to face with Ricardo. Tall, sun-kissed skin glowing with a golden hue, and warm brown eyes that sparkled mischievously. His snug black tank top left no doubt. His physique wasn't born of luck, but of years of dedication. "Not exactly," I stammered, my cheeks flushing fiercely. "It's just that these machines are kind of complicated." His lips curled into a smile, and something about the way he carried himself instantly put me at ease. "Complicated, or are you just trying to dodge them?" he teased, leaning forward slightly, radiating a subtle charm that somehow felt disarming. "Maybe a little of both," I admitted with a shrug, "but now that you mention it, I think I could use some guidance." "Well," he said smoothly, "I'm a personal trainer. Call me Ricardo. I can help you figure out these machines and maybe even turn this whole experience into something fun." Laughing nervously but intrigued, I agreed almost without hesitation. The first few days were an utter fiasco. I stumbled more often than not, but Ricardo proved patient yet firm. He'd adjust my posture with gentle touches to my back or arms and reassure me with lines like, "Relax, Monica, you're not gonna break." But every time his hands grazed my skin, tingles ran up my spine. It was absurd. I hadn't come here to flirt. I was here to sweat and transform myself. One day, mid-squat session on a bench designed to strengthen my legs, I found it nearly impossible to focus. My thighs burned under the strain, my trembling body teetered on exhaustion. "Take deep breaths," he murmured close to my ear, his voice steady and soothing. "You're doing everything right." With my breath ragged and uneven, I froze for just a moment. Picking up on my unease, Ricardo quickly stepped back as though crossing some invisible boundary he'd sensed instinctively. "Sorry," he said softly. His gaze briefly dropped to the floor. "I get carried away sometimes." "You don't need to apologize. I'm fine." When our eyes met again, the air changed. An unspoken connection between us seemed to steal away the bustling noise around us. I was fairly certain he could see the warmth creeping up my neck. After weeks of rigorous training sessions, I started noticing discomfort in my lower back, a natural consequence of pushing muscles that had gone unused for years. Following one particularly grueling workout, Ricardo offered something unexpected. "You need to relax," he said calmly. "Let me give you a quick massage for your lumbar area." "Here? Now?" I asked, surprised. "Yes," he assured me, his tone steady and reassuring. "It's nothing major, trust me." Reluctantly, I lay face down on a mat as he began working on the knots in my tense muscles with slow, deliberate movements of his hands. It was oddly mesmerizing. With my eyes closed, all that mattered was the rhythm of his touch and the sense of relief washing over me. "Do you have any idea how much your body is transforming?" he asked in a low voice that carried both warmth and sincerity. "And not just physically, emotionally too." I opened my eyes and turned my head slightly to face him. "What do you mean?" I asked. He hesitated for a moment, as if carefully choosing his words. I mean that I see you freeing yourself, accepting who you are. And it's incredible. Our eyes met again, and this time there was no denying the tension between us. He leaned in, slowly closing the space between us. When his lips touched mine, it felt as though the air had been stolen from the room. The kiss was soft, exploratory, filled with tenderness. It was beyond anything I could have imagined, and yet carried a delicacy that left me completely unguarded. I couldn't think straight. All I knew was that I wanted this more than anything. When we finally pulled apart, neither of us said a word. Ricardo studied me, as though he were trying to decode something within me, something I wasn't entirely sure I understood myself. "Monica," he began hesitantly, his voice low and slightly gravelly. This shouldn't have happened. You're just a client here at the gym." I offered a shy smile, feeling warmth rise to my cheeks once again. "Then maybe it's time I stopped being just a client," I replied, surprising even myself with the boldness in my tone. He laughed quietly, the sound rich and intoxicating in the stillness of the empty room. "You really don't make things easy, do you? And since when do you prefer things easy?" I teased back, slowly rising to my feet, still humming with the electricity of the moment. Ricardo regarded me closely, his eyes tracing my face with an intensity that made my heart race all over again. He exhaled deeply, as if waging an inner battle with himself. Later that evening, long after gym hours, he invited me for an extra training session. He said he wanted to show me some functional exercises to complement my regular routine. When I arrived at the training room, it was empty, softly lit by a few lights in the background. The stillness felt almost magical, as though the space belonged solely to us at that moment. Ricardo played gentle music that seemed to weave its way into the very air around us, leaving everything tinged with an almost tangible atmosphere. "Let's start with some warm-ups," he said with a warm smile, handing me an exercise ball. "But this time you'll need to trust me completely." I nodded, trusting him without hesitation. He guided me through stretches and movements that required focus and grace, challenges that tested my body and forced me to concentrate on his instructions. At one point, I stood across from him during a lateral stretch. Our proximity drew us closer with every move. "You're doing great," he murmured softly, his voice so near it felt like a caress. "But I think we need something a bit more challenging." Before I could ask what he meant, our shared energy overtook any words between us. My breathing grew heavier, not just from exertion, but from something more profound happening between us. Ricardo leaned closer and asked gently, "Are you sure?" I barely had time to respond before his lips found mine again. This time the kiss was spontaneous and confident, a surge of passion so consuming it left no room for hesitation. All I could do was surrender, to him, to us, with absolute freedom and pure abandon. At that moment, I wasn't just vulnerable. I felt fiercely empowered by our connection. His gaze held mine with an intensity that made me feel as though I were the only person in the world, and that sensation was both dizzying and grounding all at once. Together, we unraveled our emotions carefully and intimately, with every gesture and every shared glance revealing something both unspoken and undeniable between us. Awakening parts of myself I never knew existed. "You're beautiful," he said, his voice gentle and comforting. "And strong, so strong." Those words disarmed me, yet carried a tenderness that contrasted with the moment, like a dance of a rhythm only we understood. It felt as though all the walls I'd meticulously built over the years were finally crumbling. Side by side, I noticed something had shifted. The change wasn't merely physical, though the defined muscles were visible proof of my progress. It was deeper, something intangible, yet profound. "Are you okay?" Ricardo asked. "More than okay," I replied with a smile. "I think I've finally understood what you meant about transformation." He smiled back, the kind of smile that always made me feel both safe and loved. "This is just the beginning, Monica, for both of us." For the first time in so long, I believed him. That day had been a turning point, not only in our relationship with Ricardo, but also in how I perceived myself. I felt something I had never experienced before: wholeness. The urge to compare my body to others at the gym faded away. Instead, I began noticing my own milestones, big or small. Over the following days, Ricardo's gaze often carried that playful sparkle. One afternoon, as beads of sweat matted my hair to my forehead, he gently brushed them aside with his fingers. "You know," he began, his voice as soft as the touch on my skin, "I always knew you had potential. But watching this transformation, it's beyond what I imagined." I smiled, feeling slightly self-conscious under his attentive gaze. "I almost make it sound like I'm some kind of special project," I replied playfully. "It's not a project," he corrected quickly. "I mean it. It's you, Monica. All that strength and determination have been here from the start. I just helped you uncover it." Swallowing hard, I tried to process the rush of emotions his words evoked. It felt strange, almost surreal, that someone could view me like this. My whole life, I'd been the skinny girl without curves, the one who avoided mirrors and selfies because she believed there was nothing worth capturing. Yet Ricardo saw me differently, and somehow our interactions began to shift in ways so subtle yet undeniable. A new sense of intimacy blossomed between us, something that surpassed stolen kisses and secret conversations during workouts. Ricardo remained my personal trainer, correcting my posture and rooting for every small success. But now there was an unspoken understanding in every gesture we shared. These moments were what made our connection so unique. It wasn't just about romance. It was about sharing laughter, challenges, and victories. Each session at the gym became an opportunity to learn more about one another, to explore the dynamic we were building as two individuals learning to trust deeply. Unintentionally, I found myself embracing my journey. The mirrors at the gym no longer felt intimidating. While my flaws were still visible to me, they no longer dominated my narrative. Instead, every toned muscle and bead of sweat symbolized something bigger, a growing acceptance of who I was and who I could become. Months later, I barely recognized the girl who had first walked into that gym. My body had undeniably transformed, but the most profound changes had happened in my mind and heart. I felt strong, confident, and, above all, free. Ricardo and I continued together, not just at the gym, but in all aspects of life. He taught me something invaluable. True power comes from within, and sometimes we need someone to guide us towards seeing it for ourselves. Thank you for watching this story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. There's plenty more inspiring content just like this waiting for you here.